Good morning. What's going on, everybody? Curly hair rescue, top volume hacks you need now. Right now, Bernard. There you go. You've
I
got
need it
top
right
volume
now.
hacks we all need for curly hair.
Yeah. So water. I'm going to say that water. I could never do long hair. This is so in my mouth, in my nose, in my ears, everything.
Come on, man. You're like an 80s hairband right now.
So this, I just grabbed this out of my mom's wig shop, and it's all wrong. It's old, wefted, low quality. I guess just for fun. But we went to for New Year's Eve. We went to some friends in Tennessee, and they do a wig. They always wear wigs for New Year's. I didn't know this first time I went to their party. So we're all wearing wigs. Go ahead and show the picture of me with a wig. And when I heard that we were doing curly hair hacks, I was like, I just had curly hair a few days ago. This is a lot of fun. And that's my wife. She has dark brown hair normally. Somebody said, you look like Lady Gaga. I'm not sure she looks like Gaga, but the blonde hair and me with the serious curly hair. All right, I've seen this long enough.
You see that long enough.
And you mentioned the curly hair hacks this week. I've always loved curly hair. I became a stylist. I graduated from high school in 1987. And the reason I remember is because all of those pep rallies where you just scream your year over and over, 87, 87, go, go, go. I don't know if every high school does that, but we yelled it so many times for 4 years in a row in high school at these pep rallies. It is like burned in my brain. So I'm not big on dates, but I remember like just a couple of years later, I went to hair school. So it had to be like 89, 90. And curly hair, we were doing perms every day, sometimes multiple times a day. And I just kind of accidentally became a curly hair expert. Didn't know I was until a few years later. Hairdressers just aren't doing perms anymore. They're not learning them in school. And then Cher and Madonna made straight smooth hair so popular, people thought it was just a trend and it was going to go away in a year or two or a few. And like a couple decades later, people still had curls are finally actually coming back.
Finally now, yeah, right?
But for at least 10 years now, people have been saying it's coming back this year, next year. We're going to get curly, and we might do one perm a year. Now we're perming more guys' hair than girls' hair in the salon. A lot of guys are getting their hair, they're growing that little bigger curly look. Mark Zuckerberg, he's coming back with all these new Facebook regulations, changing new presidencies, trying to play nice with the new administration kind of thing. But I hadn't seen him in a while. He's grown his hair out and it's big and curly. Have you seen that on the news?
Yeah.
He's doing a lot of talking, and he's kind of trying to fit in with the new trends, bigger, curlier hair. I think his is a little more natural. Maybe he's got a perm too. And so he, like many others, are dealing with the curly hair problems. And I would say that my wife, naturally curly hair. Most people grow up with grow up with curly hair, just hate their hair because they don't know what to do with it or how to control it. And this day and time, we have more products than ever to help with that. But the funny thing is, kids growing up with their straight hair, especially little girls with their friends having curly hair, are liking the friends with the wavier hair, and they want to get a perm to get wavier, and the girls with curly hair are trying to get rid of their curly hair. And that's why we make so much money, because nobody likes their hair and they're all trying to meet in the middle somewhere. They're trying to change their hair. And so I had to kind of decide, like, what do I like better? I think I probably like some curl rather than none, some wavy hair. And then I like curly hair personally. I like more curly hair, but if you don't know what to do, the first thing you see, if you just brush through it, let's give that example. You just brush through it and it's dry. Poof. Poof.
You can't walk through a door.
And
I think I like looking at curly hair, but if it comes to blow drying or working on curly hair, I think just like any other stylist, I kind of die inside a little bit.
I love it. You're a little younger than me, so you didn't deal with as much curly hair. Possibly.
You've seen Carmelina.
I know, but yeah, well,
it never ends. It just never ends.
But you didn't live your first decade of being a stylist knowing her and having her hair to deal with. You you were a stylist in a salon where curly hair was kind of going out a little bit, right?
Oh, we
Was
did
there a lot of curly hair?
all we did was those Japanese permanent straightenings, man. Every person wanted to get
Because
rid of
they
their
had curly.
curls.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I was going the other way. I was making people's hair curly and dealing with curly hair. And this was our best friend for the longest time. And that's what I think would be the first curly hair hack. If somebody, we're saying, what's the word in our title? It's not hack. It's
No, it's the top volume hacks that you need to know.
but what was the title? There was a
Oh,
word.
it's curly hair rescue.
Rescue.
Yeah.
When I heard that word rescue, this would be probably the biggest rescue would be water. And the reason I say that is because I mean, it's not the longest lasting, but it's the fastest, easiest, cheapest, use all the time, re-energize almost anything you already have in your hair. Because I know that when my wife would wake up in the morning, if she had styled her hair curly, well, you wake up in the morning where you slept, it's going to be a little flatter and still big over here, right? Or flat here, and just depending, flat in the back maybe. And this was the thing that would change you immediately before anything else, right? Mist a little, you know, oh God, it's raining in here. Mist a little, fluff it up. What is that actually doing? What is water doing to curly hair?
It's the age-old argument between moisture and hydration. Everybody always gets confused between the two. They're like, oh, I need hydration, I need moisture. And they think the words are synonymous, meaning like one and the same. They're interchangeable, but they're so different.
Interesting.
Curly hair, the biggest problem, like you're saying, H2O, water. It's the number one thing that curly hair, especially more than any other hair type, is lacking constantly all the time. So re-moisturizing, re-wetting, re-adding a little bit of hydration, or excuse me, moisture, some water to the hair externally from the surface eliminates 90% of the problems of curly hair, which is the number one complaints. It's too big, it's too fluffy, it's too unruly, it's frizzy, fly away, you know, all that stuff.
And so let me describe what that fluff is a little bit, because this is something I don't know if anybody ever completely understands it, and it's the best I can do to explain it. But when you look at a little fuzzy cotton ball, and it just looks like it's all one, but it's actually a whole bunch of little hair like, you know, wool, hairy fibers, all just going in different directions, and it looks like one solid entity. Well, that's how curly hair can look if every single hair stands alone. So when you brush through hair, like just in my front hairline here, you see how it looks like I got these chunks of hair. So these separations, like between the two dark spots, you see that big chunk right there. That's not one hair, right? That's it's a grouping of hair sticking together, and that's what moisture, water, products, conditioner does to sort of control or make the eye be able to follow the curl a little bit better. And so that's the number one thing that makes curly hair look a little bit better or different, is having some kind of organized chaos, organized control that you can follow with the eye. And now I'm not saying that a complete fuzzy frizzy mess is not sometimes the look for, so let's say, a movie set. You know, the joke I always do with my wife, when her hair's a little she has naturally curly hair, she gets it flat ironed or curled, and it'll last a couple of days until we end up in the lots of humidity. Or we went to a wedding the other night that was outside under a tent. There was a little bit of rain. She got a little rain on her hair, and her hair starts to revert back to her curl, but it's still got a little. And then I'm calling her Jane, you know, because she looks a little like Tarzan's wife. And personally, I think that's super attractive. I like a wild, messy, curly, wavy look, but it's not for everybody, right? And so when every hair starts standing alone, each one of those hairs all go their own way. There's so many of them, it starts to look like one thing. And most people would say it's too much for the eye to follow, and it just looks like a solid mass of knots, tangles, matted. It's just it's hard to understand, so you just call it a mess. And so when you've got and this is obviously a synthetic wig, but you can follow a complete curl pattern here, and you can grab one And that right there is, I don't know, probably 150 to 100 hairs all organized going the same way. And throughout there, this is always what I've talked about with curly hair is there's a balance between, and you can kind of see where some of these areas where there's a few hairs standing alone and it looks a little frizzier in some areas compared to others. But there's a balance between every single hair standing alone and how clumpy you want it. The more clumpy, the flatter, maybe the wetter, the less volume. So there's a little give and take. As you control the curl, you flatten the whole look most of the time, because to get that fullness, as every hair stands alone, is pushing more air in between the fibers, and you're getting a bigger and a bigger afro look because every hair is pushing. And I can tell you want to jump in here and say some things. Go ahead.
That's the balance between that hydration and that moisture. Hydration is the internal wetness of the hair, or the internal moisture inside the hair, right? And I hate to use that same word twice, but hydration internally, as long as you have that, the hair is going to control itself, maintain itself, be balanced, be healthy, be good. If it's missing it, then it's going to look for it externally. That's where humidity exists in the atmosphere. That's why the hair grows and gets crazy and starts blowing up. Because if it doesn't have it inside, it's got to find it from the outside. That's where humidity is such the culprit in a lot of people, especially with curly hair. That's why they hate humidity. That's why there's so many products that are anti-humectant and to fight humidity and all that stuff. It's the way I explain it to a lot of clients is, think about that drink, Gatorade. They always say, like, quench your thirst. Because if you're dehydrated, then you need electrolytes to bring back your hydration. And then you drink water to just maintain your hydration. And that's the whole argument. If you do it the same way with hair, then it makes far more sense. It makes far more sense.
Yeah. So what I noticed on, I know you know a little more chemically, internally, what's going on with the hair. I'm going to deal more externally, what's going on the outside, and the visual, physical feel and touch and look of the hair. And what I've noticed is that the early days when we put, I've got a mannequin over there I want to go grab. I've been doing some roller sets and talking to people about half on and half off base when you curl, whether it's with a roller, a curling iron, or a hot roller, what it does for near the scalp volume. And the main point of that is what helps hold all that in place is products. And I think that has been the biggest change in the way we deal with hair in my career of doing hair. Because I remember the only products products have gotten more and more and more now. There's like freaking hundreds of products you can use, and it just gets more confusing now. But in the beginning, I remember it wasn't much different than shampoo, conditioner, on the cleaning side, deep conditioner. And then on the product side, we had basically mousse, gel, hairspray.
It was easy. It was very easy, very simple, you know?
It all grew from there, right? And so then the only differences in the mousses and gels, or foams and gels, and let's just talk about gels for a minute, was how thick or thin, how watery or thick jelly they were. And that didn't necessarily matter, but usually the thicker they were, the harder the hold. But sometimes the thinner ones could hold hard too. It just really kind of mattered what that holding agent in that product was. And so that was kind of the choice with curly hair. You put a gel in your hair to control the curl, and it dried hard. So you had to start drying with a diffuser or a dryer, start separating some of the curls. So the way you'd get some volume was having some of those wild individual hairs standing alone and smaller clumps. And you had to like decide to stop drying at the height and the bigness that you wanted. And you still would have some dampness in the hair. But
what's the difference between a diffuser and a blow dryer?
You want to say? I know you do. Go ahead.
No, I'm asking you.
Well, with the blow dryer, okay. So when you're blowing with a blow dryer, it's too much forced air where it's pushing the hair around. It's just breaking it all up. And so that's the biggest problem. You're separating those clumps, as I call them, clumps of curls, clumps of hair that are all showing that curl. When that hair just blowing in the wind like a hurricane, it's just separating and separating and separating, and turning into 100 little hairs and turning into a fuzzball. The diffuser is more like just a warm, it's still a wind. It's just not as strong of a wind, right? A warm air just passing over the hair and just not blowing it all around. So yeah, actually that's a good, boy, I always think of all the details. You got to be careful not to burn up your blow dryer with a diffuser also, because you're slowing the air down. You're sort of putting a muzzle on the end of that thing, slowing the air down, so it's not cooling the engine as well. So you should be using less heat and less blow, because you're slowing the blow down anyway. So it should really be on low or medium and warm instead of hot. But maybe you could do low and hot. So think about that if you're going to do that. But that diffuser, you're putting it on there and it's just creating a warm air across your head, right? But a real soft breeze instead of a hurricane winds coming across your hair. And so now you got these, some don't have it, but a lot of them have these fingers sticking out of the end of a diffuser, right? And so you use those fingers to help grab the hair. And I always say kind of go back and forth, because you're kind of encouraging the curls to fold on themselves. Because if you just bend it in half, let's go back a tiny bit. You put product in your hair, it's going to weigh it down and maybe look a little less curly when you got the water and the product.
Especially if you have the heavier gels, that makes a difference.
And if it's still soaking wet. So you've got this balance of towel dry, get a lot of the moisture out, so the moisture coming out took away some of the weight, so your curls can spring back up. But now it's a matter of, do you have fine thin hair curls, or do you have thick strong hair curls? Because finer, thinner hair is going to fall flatter. Somebody with thinner, finer, and bleached blonde hair, she could have very curly hair, but put some products in it and do a brush comb through it, the product stick in it and make it look straight. And so she doesn't even know she has curly hair. So often these girls come in for a perm, and I want to make the money, but I also want to save my reputation, and sometimes just want to show how smart I am. And I'm like, you already have curly hair. No, I don't. You're just nuts. I see it in the shampoo bowl. I just shampooed your hair. You have curly hair. You just don't know how to style it. That was when I knew that I was a curly hair expert. I was like, there's so many people that have curly hair and they just don't even know it because they mess it up. They're blowing with a blow dryer straight down. Yeah. They're pushing the curl out, heating it up, basically sort of flat iron it or styling it straight. And then at the end, their hair dries and it's straight-ish, frizzy-ish. The curl's just causing some little kinky bends. And they say, you see, I don't have curly hair. I just have damaged hair. You don't even have damaged hair. It's just it looks damaged because you don't know how to style it, or you're not styling it correctly. So that diffuser with the fingers can take and bend the curls back and forth and put them into the hair and push it against the head. If you want to get volume, of course, you could just do it here and leave it flat, or just do it on top. But you've got to push the weight out of the hair and encourage the curl to be not weighted down by product and water, and then dry it. And then when you take your hand away, that hair will stay there, because it's there. You push it up and it'll stay with all the curls when you use the diffuser. So I find that people leaning like to the side to get the back, and this side to get this back or side, throwing it all over, pushing it up towards their forehead. There's a lot of tips and tricks with just how to use a diffuser to dry the hair. And then, of course, again, it's always going to come down to how dry, that balance between.
That's what I was just about to ask you. Should it be 100% dry? Should it be just about dry?
Well, you can get it, like while you're doing it with a diffuser, you can get it to the size you like and the visual appearance that you like, that look that you like, right? And then don't touch it anymore, but you could continue to diffuse by putting that warm air across it and letting it dry completely. If that person, usually not, usually let them leave it, it's slightly damp and it'll dry over the next couple hours pretty easily. But some people, maybe some temperature situations or going to a wedding, or they want to be complete. And I don't know if it's complete if it's still a little damp, so you can still finish getting it dry and sneak that diffuser in a bunch of areas. And And it takes longer and it takes patience. And most people, stylists of today, don't want to do it. I see it in my own salon. I'm like, that, yeah, I used a diffuser. For what? To sit on? Because it doesn't look like you used it on her hair. I mean, what? Yeah, I use it on her hair. And God, don't even show me, because then I got to call you out on it, because it just was ridiculous. And so to me, it's like, I'm going to spend another 10 or 15, maybe 20 minutes and get her completely dry. But you know what else you can do? You can put her under a hood dryer. If you've got hood dryers in the salon, you don't even have to put it on top of the head. You know how a hood dryer is just sitting in the back, aiming forward? You can sit in front of a hood dryer and it can just blow across the back. You could have 2 of them. You could have those red lights for processing color just over them. Something to create some warm heat near the hair to finish drying, especially if you want to use that dryer or lamp as an assistant.
Do you ever throw a roller in there before you put them under the lamps or the dryer?
A roller? I haven't.
Like a Velcro or those plastic rollers?
Well, not if I've diffused and using their own natural curl. Tell me what you're talking about.
Sometimes, well, I guess this is more for shows. You know, we'll take some of that hair, especially at the base, because you want big volume up in here.
If you want big volume.
If you want big volume up in there, even though your hair is going to dry curly naturally, if you kind of just stick 1 or 2 rollers right off your part and let it start drying the curls naturally, like you're not perfectly wrapping the hair around the roller.
You're just kind of putting
it in there and just kind of shoving it in there and letting the hair kind of shape around over it.
Yeah. No, I've already had them hanging upside down. I got all that volume I need in that area.
So you're using their skull, the shape of their head as
and using a diffuser. So I didn't use a hood dryer much for that, because I just scheduled and took the time to do it myself. But I'm just saying you could use a hood dryer. And I guess I have a few times, but mostly if I was running late or had another client and I'm trying to save some time. But if I have the time, I'm going to finish it myself. And so though all of what we just mentioned is mostly the how to dry, how to style, how to what would that work? You know, Paul Mitchell, I just came across a product yesterday. I was asking my son, you got a thin gel? I want to do a roller set and make a short to show some people this on and off and half off base kind of thing. And I asked him for a product that we didn't have. And he goes, what about Reworks? And that reminded me, I was like, he says, Reworks is a pretty good product. And I said, what's it for? He goes, well, I don't know. It's just called Reworks. I said, it was made because so many, that product was made when people
Brennan, I love Brennan, man.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in the Paul Mitchell like creation of a lot of products and names. And I remember when Reworks came out at a seminar that I'm at, he doesn't have that advantage. So people don't get the stories that come with the brand new products and why they came on the scene. And Reworks, it kind of says it in the name, but it was perfect for curly hair, or even just styled like my hair, for people who don't shampoo their hair every day. That started becoming popular at the time it was created. And people were flat ironing and realizing, oh, this stays good for multiple days. I don't want to shampoo and do all this work every single day. Maybe I can touch it up. Maybe I can rework it the next day. And so for curly hair, a little water bottle and a little Reworks, it was a product that wasn't quite as, I always like to use the word sticky. I don't know what the proper word is, but in gels and foams and hairsprays, they always, to me, I want to see a chart that would be across all products, all brands, with the sticky level, you know,
with the sticky level.
How much sticky level do you have? You know, what is the amount of hold?
Well, it's interesting because for a time that was the thing. The stickier, the harder the hold, the better.
Oh, that was the goal. The bigger and the better.
Was the goal.
Sebastian had that gigantic spray can. It was like this tall, and it. Do you remember the name of it?
It was Shaper.
Shaper Plus, maybe.
Shaper Plus, yeah. Shaper Ultra,
And then Paul Mitchell had Freeze and Shine. I think people were like how much better of a word than you can get than freeze. Freeze. It was frozen in time, you know.
The crunchier the hair, the better it was. That was
at one point,
you know.
And so so Reworks was to rework some of these products the next day before the real hard hairsprays, because those were hard to rework and add a little product, add a little water, and just fluff it up the next day. But the real the real friend to curly hair was somewhere in the middle of all this when they came out with products that didn't ever completely dry hard. And it was started off with a completely non-sticky product. And I've talked a little bit about this in another video, but my favorite first one was a product that came out for straight hair. And then all of a sudden they realized it could be used for curly hair. And that was like the stylists finding new ways to use products that weren't intended, but it revolutionized everything. They brought this beautiful curly haired model out, and her hair was big and beautiful. And when they went to touch it, we're all assuming because it's kind of shiny and big and curly and kind of like that wig, we're assuming that's got to be hard, like crunchy hard. And then they run their fingers through it, and we're like mind blown. Like, wait, what is this? It was Straight Works. It was a silicone product that had no hold. It was just for helping resist humidity for flat ironing, blow drying and flat ironing girls' hair, long and straight, or guys, I guess, just anybody with long straight hair. And it would just help resist humidity so it wouldn't revert back to that curl. But if you already had curl and you put a silicone shiny product on there, it would just help separate some of the hairs. So you still had, but you had movement. And God, you didn't have movement in styled curly hair for years. And so from there came some of the products like pomades and different products that had a hold and a shine, but never dried hard.
Well, I think that was the it revolutionized styling. That's really
the word
did.
I was going to use. It really did.
Yeah.
For short men's hair too, because I use a product I can put my hands through, like I can change the style, and RJ will use this for like a
when he goes out on the weekends, right? Yeah, right.
Look, I can just redo it. And I got to tell you, you know what went away with this? Headaches. Hard dried gel.
The gel.
I would get a headache. I would want to touch my head. I would want to loosen up how hard it was at the scalp because my scalp wasn't moving. And then it would start looking dry, and I didn't have the wet look when we really wanted that wet look, you know. And then so then it would start looking dry. I'd have to put a little water in it to rework my hair. and then it would dry looking hard again. And then I'd start putting my fingers through it. But now the products will have different levels of shine. So I have a product in my hair, but it hardly looks like it. But it has hold without the gloss or the shine. So yes, the non-drying, sticky, hard products was the big friend to curly hair, but also lots of different hair. Then the different levels of shine, whether it be super glossy, semi-glossy, or a matte finish. And that revolutionized the industry of products too, in my opinion.
Up until that point, you could do a foam. You had a mousse or you had a gel. The foam mousses are still today really good. You don't see them as much anymore. We used to call it the golf ball. It would spray out, look like kind of like shaving cream, you know, and it was a thick foam, white foam. Yeah, it'd squirt out, make the whole noise and everything coming out of there. Yep. That would give a lot. That would clump. It was really good for clumping the hair together. And especially for somebody who has thinner, finer hair, you'd be able to actually see nice curl patterns coming through. For people who had thicker, coarser hair, the gels were a little bit more, and some people would actually combine the foam mousse with gel just because the hair was so thick and coarse. So then this way they could get the separation and the definition going on in there, but then they still needed extra hold. When those pomades came out, and especially the glosses, the gloss jelly pomades, they wasn't just the wax ones. That's where it had the silicones. That's where it had the shines in them. It had the ability to be able to be workable, run your hands through it, be able to style it, and be able to give you the freedom and flexibility for the hair to still have its natural movement. That's where hairspray started becoming a lot more popular. And this is where it gave rise to wet hairsprays, non-aerosol hairsprays.
Pumps,
yeah, pump style hairspray. And that became huge because then depending on
Freeze and Shine. Paul Mitchell's Freeze and Shine was a pump.
That was a pump style, yeah. If you wanted a little bit of a hold, you could control it. You can build and control it. The more you pumped, the more you sprayed through, the stickier, the harder the hold got. The less you put, the more workable it was. So it really gave a lot of flexibility to what you could do with it, and then that's where it gave rise to a lot of more techniques. A lot more attention was given to curly hair. And the thing nowadays, when you're looking at it, so many products now are coming out that are specifically formulated for curly hair. But I'll tell you what, I actually recommend a hybrid maintenance program where I recommend products for straight hair equally alongside products specifically made for curly hair.
What do you mean?
Because to me, products for curly hair focus too much on the hold and not enough on hydration and or moisturizing, keeping that balance.
Kind of like I was saying, like the Straight Works was made for straight hair, but worked really good on curly hair.
It works so much better on the curly hair because of the control factor, especially for humidity and especially for the controlling the curl pattern. You need some weight. Everybody thinks curly hair, because it's like a spring, it's circular, so it needs to coil up and bounce. So everybody thinks lightweight as possible. But the lighter you go, the more those curls are going to be subject to the wind and to movement and friction and everything else. So they're going to go out of control. So you need, there's that balance. You need some weight, not to weigh it down so much like you were saying earlier between being sopping wet and blow drying it straight, but you need some weight that after it completely dries, because I think curly hair takes an hour or two longer to fully dry than straight hair does. It retains moisture a little bit longer. A lot of people think, oh, I just blow dried my hair, so it's dry now. It's on the surface, it's dry now, but internally it's still wet a little bit.
Wet. So I want to go
over hair collapses.
I want to go through two more super important things that one is a bit of a myth and people don't understand about. Okay, so what a lot of people hear the rule, but they apply the rule at the wrong time. The rule would be don't brush as opposed to combing. Don't brush curly hair. So you put products in the hair and they don't want to comb or brush the product through. And I'm going to talk about when you can use a comb or a brush on curly hair and when you cannot. So we're going to go into that. But before I do, I want to talk a little bit about how to apply the product, because that's a mess. I see that whatever you put in your hand, I don't care what it is. What do you do with it next? I mean, nobody just does that, right? Well, some people
a lot of people do that.
Well, wait, but at least they do this, right? And then they do this. And all the product is right here, right? And then even if they do this, there's no more product on their hand for this place. So that was one of the tricks or the secrets of foam. It took that little squirt, whatever, maybe quarter size, whatever you would, silver dollars, whatever you put there, it would look more like you said, a golf ball, baseball, whatever, depending on what it grew, and that foam had a lot of air in it. So it made it where you could spread that foam over the hair. And I think that was the big trick of foam, is that it helped you spread more evenly. It kind of forgave the person who doesn't know how to spread a product on hair well. So what I always tried to help was, I'd say, put the product all over your hands, then just use your fingers. Put a little here, a little here, a little here. But guess what? It stays here, right? So you just touch, and then what do? Just do this again. And it spreads it from here to here. And then you can finger comb this rest and do it again, and finger comb this and do this, and then and you keep moving product from the palm to the fingers to get it evenly spread. And at some point, you can just touch all your hair with your palms and your fingers when you barely have any product left. But now you've got it spread kind of 60-80%. It's not on 100% of the hairs. It's not.
It's still in clumps.
It's still splotchy, but at least you did it splotchy as spread out as you can, instead of just 2 grease slicks on the side of your head, right? Or 1 through the center. So you've got this product spread as evenly as you possibly can with your fingertips, and maybe it's better than some because you finger comb some, but then you brush or comb or I mean, it almost doesn't matter what tool you use now, but a brush or a comb, while the hair's wet, you can brush through it. You
You
can
should.
comb through it. You should. And most people say, oh, but I was told I can't brush curly hair. After it's dry, it'll look like a frizz ball if you brush through it. While it's wet, you can. And there's the next mistake we talked about earlier. They brush through it and now it looks straight. And they're like, oh, my curls are gone. Well, they were just there 10 seconds ago. Do you really think they're completely gone? Yes, it's a magic trick. And they are gone forever. Goodbye. So what happened? That's where smart people get clued in, like, oh, it's the weight of all this product and water. And then you don't think about, well, the water's going to be gone soon. That weight's going to just disappear, disperse into the atmosphere. It's gonna become rain, future rain.
Eventually, yeah, sure, right.
Yeah, you're putting that water back up in the air by
You're a
adding
walking humidifier in your own house.
right. You're humidifying the air, and the product dries hard.
Yeah.
Where does it dry hard? It dries hard on your
Left
hair
over on
in
your
the position that you dry it in. That's what people don't quite get. They think they put the product in their hair, and then there's a bunch of little elves in the product that make your hair look like that commercial. They don't know that there's some work involved, whether it's blow drying straight, pulling it straight with a round brush, hot rolling, any kind of roller, or a diffuser. You put the hair where you want it and what you want it to look like while it's drying, and the product helps hold it in that position. And then the weight and water goes away, so that makes it lighter, and the sticky level grabs on and holds it where it needs. And if there's enough silicone or non-sticky product stuff in the product, that's what will provide the shine, some shine, little shine, flatness, or whatever, or provide the movement, the flexibility in the hold, but some hold still. So those are the kind of things that you kind of have to be, I don't know, I guess it's a little bit of a learned experience, right? A little bit of skill comes along with that.
A little bit of skill comes along with it, but then acceptance as well. Especially in today's world, everybody's acceptance of products are formulated to work for a specific purpose. You are not eating this stuff. You're not drinking this stuff. It's not absorbing into your brains. Okay. There's a lot of talk about ingredients in products. And everyone's like, I don't want to touch that kind of stuff. I'm going to die if I use that.
Oh, yeah. We went through a time where people didn't want any products in their hair.
That's and right. they didn't want no products. And then they're complaining. Right. Well, then all natural. Why is my hair damaged? Why is my hair dry? Why can't I do anything with it? Why is it a fur ball, fuzz ball, whatever? It's like you got to put something in it. And it's like, oh, I heard silicone is a form of plastic. I don't want plastic in my hair. It's like, it's such a small percentage of
polyester clothing, plastic,
right?
Clothing.
Your clothes have more, your underwear has more plastic in it than a product does.
That's a good point. So when you're putting product on your hair, it's almost like putting clothes on your hair. They don't want to put anything on their hair. And you know what? Let's go down that road for just a minute, because that's not a bad thought to have. I don't want something foreign or unhealthy on my hair. I get it.
I get it.
But
I get it.
Why do we need product today as opposed to 100 years ago? Do you want to go into that a little bit? First, because they didn't care 100 years
ago. Well, no. You know what? I tell you what, though, they did care 100 years ago.
Okay,
because a lot of modern beauty regimens that we have now are evolutions of what we did hundreds and even thousands of years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what was the difference?
The biggest difference nowadays is we put more value on cosmetically how we look. We accessorize ourselves far more cosmetically nowadays. The other thing is, and not to get overly political about it, but there is pollution. That there is constant things in the air that is constantly attacking us. So we need to control that. There are constant things that we are putting into our bodies. It grows out from your hair. So you need products to help control all of that too.
Let me give you a little hint of where I'm going. The same reason girls still think they're supposed to do this thing that is kind of, I don't even know what you call it. Maybe the brushing your hair 100 times before you go to sleep, 100 times a day. The reason for that we don't need to do it anymore is part of the reason we need products. You know where I'm going with that?
Oh, okay, okay. So 100 years ago, everybody worked in farms or went outside and touched grass. So you would naturally get leaves and dirt and debris, and not everybody showered daily.
That's the main point. We
You know,
didn't wash our hair.
you didn't wash your hair every day.
Right.
Man, some people do it once a week. Some people wash their hair once a month.
Right.
So you shed every day, and that's build up lost hair that would stay clumped up in there, which would turn into what is that, matting and tangles and stuff like that. Then you'd have stuff in your hair. So the whole idea and the concept between 100 strokes a night was, in lieu of washing and cleansing properly, they were physically removing all buildups, loose hairs, and debris out of their hair.
And moving scalp, sweat, and oil where it might look greasy at the scalp throughout the whole strand, so that your body provided the
lubrication and condition.
The lubrication, the shine, the conditioner. Right. So you move the oil from the scalp to the ends if you kept your hair longer. And so when we started bathing more, well, you know, when you say once a week, once a month, that was during spring and fall. Summer, maybe more often. But in parts, people didn't even want to live where I live 100 years ago down south because it was too hot. Texas population didn't explode until air conditioning came around. So a lot of people lived where it was cooler because it was easier to put clothes on than live through the heat that we have to endure down here. And so in the winter, if you can't get hot water, you're probably going months without showering or washing that hair, right? And so now we bathe or shower so often, we're removing the sweat and oil from our hair, and we've kind of become accustomed to that. You know, our bodies are getting used to that. We secrete sweat and oil a little more often to try to keep up with that. And that's why some people have dry skin, obviously, because they probably clean the natural oils off their body too often.
How often do you think a woman puts lotion on?
I thought you were getting ready to ask how often I bathe or shower, and I think it's personal. So, but let's finish the hair thing really quick. If you're shampooing your hair, even if it's once a week now, our cleansers are way better than they were back then. Our water is more forceful. You're removing everything. You have to put something back if you want it to look shiny or nice, instead of just removing it. And then we could go into way down a rabbit hole of hard water, soft water, and what.
That's a whole nother video in itself.
Yeah, not going to do that. You're right. And so these days, you're right. Lotion's a big thing. Girls and guys are using hand lotions, face lotions, body lotions, because we're just
product for your hair. It's lotion for your hair.
Same thing for the hair, right? So I'm with you on the I don't want anything unnatural in my product. I mean, come on, you're not eating it. You're right. So I don't really care much about that. Some things will make your hair feel a little drier. Some make it feel ways you don't like, more tangly. I get that. The chemicals or ingredients matter then, but these kicks where people go on where they want to go all natural and don't want to put anything in the hair, that's fine. If you want ugly hair, go for it.
Everything is a trade-off. It is what it is, you know. Yeah. And then when it comes to asking for a haircut on curly hair, there's a lot of stylists that are afraid to cut curly hair.
Should be.
But there's a lot of stylists that are, you know.
They are. Well, because we haven't had curly hair for so long. Even curly hair girls have been flat iron for so long that, again, it's another learned skill.
Well, you want a fun one?
Go ahead.
Carmelina will always ask somebody, because, you know, I get busy, so I don't always have time to do her hair for her. So she'll go around and she'll ask other people, like, hey, do you want to cut my hair? And everybody will look at her and be like, no, why? She goes, no, it's fine. Cutting my hair is really easy. Just don't make me look like a Christmas tree. And everyone's like, oh, what? She's like, I don't want to look like a Christmas tree. Do you know what she's talking about?
I do. It's mostly cutting it one length. Cutting it one length. It'll be big at the bottom, but it'll be flat at the top.
It's so funny.
So it just grows because her hair, she has so much and it's so curly. They don't know what she's talking about though. And then if they just do a little bit of layers, it's just going to look just a different kind of stupid. So it's difficult. Curly hair, you almost, depending on how curly, you almost have to cut curly hair. The curlier it is, the more this is important. And I learned this from doing hair replacement. I mean, my first black male client on hair replacement, tight afro, I was scared to death. I had always combed hair up in my fingers and cut with scissors, and I just couldn't, that hair would curl around my fingers so tight, I couldn't cut them. And he told me, you know, when I was doing this, there was no internet, there was no YouTube to learn this. And so
Right.
he tells me, no, you just pick it out and use your clippers. And I thought, well, that's scary. That's kind of freehand. But you know what? Not that you need to do curly hair freehand, but that almost is. You actually, and I love gardening, you actually kind of have to think of curly hair like an art or sculpting, or like you're trimming a bush. You're trimming bushes and you've got a shape. It can be square, round, Christmas tree. And so you basically look at hair while it's curly, maybe pick it out a little bit and see how big it could get, because that's what could happen accidentally with the atmosphere, and then see where the weight needs to be taken out. And that's why I know the Christmas tree look, it's almost at the bottom, it would just be one length. It's going to stack. But at the scalp, it's going to lay kind of flat. And you could fluff that to make it look the same. But if she doesn't and just gets out of the shower and just towel dries her hair, it's going to look biggest at the bottom and flatter at the top. And so the more you start taking off that outside corner, the more rounded. And it's almost like a medium to a lot of layers you need to soften that whole rounded edge. You have to decide how rounded you want that end and how much you want the layers to come up. So some things are way easier with curly hair because it hides a lot of mistakes, but it shows shape pretty strongly.
It shows shape is huge. Are you familiar with disconnection haircuts?
You know, I've never done much in disconnection except for
So a disconnection haircut, in essence, what it is, you know, you section the front half of the hair.
You do this. You do much disconnection with curly?
A lot.
Interesting. So you just like taking the top third or half and just layering
the top third or half and you do that as one type of haircut, and then you do the bottom half as a separate type of haircut, or you do from the occipital down, you know, the nape area,
so
like an undercut.
It's just a little bit of layers over the top without layering everything.
No, so like when you brush it out, like if you were to blow dry it straight, it would look like a hot mess. Nothing would be even. So you would have like a very sharp line. You'd have another sharp line. There wouldn't be that graduation. So that's what they refer to as that disconnection, because it doesn't all flow.
Let's cover that real quick. This could probably be a little short video taken out of here. I think the most important thing about cutting curly hair is the consultation. And you ask that girl, do you ever wear your hair straight? Do you ever flat
This is
iron?
very important. It's true.
Yes. Do you ever wear your hair straight or flat iron? Yes, because not every curl on their head is the same. And that's interesting. So when you have a girl with long curly hair and she says, I just want this much off. Well, that doesn't mean flat iron her hair and take that much off.
No.
I mean, it might mean taking this much off, might look like that much. So you have to literally cut her hair while it's dry, and then maybe pick through it, comb through it, and cut any other wild ones. But it looks, some of the curls are looser, some are tighter, but they all look like this length right now while it's styled and curly. But if you were to flat iron it, it's going to be a mess.
You'd never know. Yeah.
So if they do flat iron their hair sometimes or often, you got to do that first initial cut while it's dry to get the length and curl or curve or whatever layers that they want when they wear their hair curly. Then you have to comb it really straight, wet it, flat iron it, whatever you need to do. Wet will help simulate straight hair. And then cut off the really long wild ones that come out, because that will just kind of disappear into the curly style. But you've got to kind of fine tune it, flat and smooth and straight, because some wild hairs, those curls, they take up a lot of time getting down to this design line, right?
Think about bangs. Think about cutting bangs. You never cut bangs wet. You might kind of take some of the majority of the length off, but you never do the detail work on wet hair when cutting bangs. So it's similarly like that. And you always have to remember, no matter what length you cut, curly hair too, when it's dry or when it's styled, it's always going to shrink an extra inch minimum
or more, depending on how
or
curly it is.
more. Yeah. Depending on how tight that curl is.
That's why it's best to trim curly hair when they walk in and say what they want. Let's do some cutting now. Then we'll do some shampooing and fine tuning. Then we'll style it and maybe fine tune a little bit more. But I would usually cut curly hair before I ever do anything else. Right after the consultation, let's do the majority of the lopping off. If they're wanting to cut a few inches off, let's get most of that done. It could be this thick on their back, you know, from stacked up on the back. I'm going to cut through a few layers trying to get all the way to their back, you know, and then get that one length. Or they wanted it layered. I might just kind of finger comb it, not try to comb through it and get all the tangles out, layer it a little bit, pick it out, fluff it up, kind of see what it looks like, and then wet it and go back and look at what I did. And then it's almost like I'm correcting my own haircut then. Because I'm kind of fine tuned. I'm looking through it and like, God, if you'd have walked in, I shampooed it and saw this, I'd think somebody messed up your haircut. But it was just me giving some big, giant kind of guidelines of where I need to be. And so then when I wet it and comb it up to layer it, I can see where I hacked off the majority of it. Now I just need to take a few more hairs off to fine tune those layers. Then if they say they flat iron it, how about we do that today? Why don't you leave flat and smooth today? The curly hair is going to look fine when you leave. I already tacked that when you first got here and while it was wet. But if you flat iron it more than 3 or 4 times a month, we probably need to flat iron it today and fine tune those edges to look good for when you wear it straight also.
You need that flexibility. Yeah, you need that way. Boom. You need that way to make it interchangeable. It's huge. Yeah. All right. What kind of advice for you do you all have if you have curly hair? How do you do it? What is your favorite way to dry it? Do you let it do you dry it halfway? Do you dry it almost all the way? Let us know what you think. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you all next week. Look at you, sexy man, you.